Have you ever looked at a problem in your life and thought, why does this keep happening to me? Have you ever felt as if the same lesson wears different faces, returning again and again, no matter how far you walk? Perhaps it is late at night. The room is quiet, but your mind is not. Your phone rests beside you, dark and still, yet your chest feels tight. A memory rises. A mistake. A conflict. A loss that does not feel accidental. Your shoulders tense as if bracing for something unseen. Your breath shortens. Your body reacts before your thoughts can explain why. In moments like these, many people whisper to themselves that life is unfair. That chaos rules everything. That suffering arrives without reason. But the Buddha offered a different way of seeing. Not as punishment. Not as fate carved in stone. But as a gentle and precise unfolding of causes and conditions. You are not broken. You are not cursed. And your struggles are not random. Tonight, you are invited to rest inside a deeper understanding. One that does not blame. One that does not frighten. One that slowly changes how every problem is held in the heart. Let us begin quietly. Right where you are. With the simple truth that nothing appears without a reason, and nothing needs to be carried with fear. The first teaching, non-self. Stop taking everything personally. It is early morning. The light has not fully arrived yet. You are standing in the kitchen, holding a cup that has already gone cold. A message you read last night still echoes in your body. A tone. A look. A sentence that should have been small, but was not. Your chest feels tight, as if something is pressing inward. Your jaw holds tension without you noticing. Even before the day begins, your mind is already replaying a moment that hurt. This is where the knot forms. The mind begins to say, why did they do this to me? What did I do wrong? Why am I always the one this happens to? The world feels personal. Every word lands like a verdict. Every problem feels like proof that something is wrong with you. This reaction does not arise because you are weak. It arises because the mind is trained to protect a self it believes must be defended at all costs. A self that feels solid. A self that feels exposed. The Buddha looked directly at this habit of mind. He did not judge it. He did not shame it. He simply saw it clearly. He taught a radical and gentle insight called non-self. In Pali, anatta. It means that what you call me is not a fixed thing that can be attacked, diminished, or broken. What you experience as self is a moving stream. Sensations. Thoughts. Memories. Reactions arising from countless causes and conditions. When someone speaks harshly, the pain does not come only from their words. It comes from the mind saying, this is about me. This defines me. This threatens who I am. But what if there is no solid center being threatened? What if there is no permanent self that needs constant defense? The Buddha taught that suffering intensifies the moment we cling to identity. The moment we say, this is happening to me, therefore I am less, unsafe, or wrong. Without that clinging, experience still happens. Words are spoken. Events unfold. But they pass through instead of lodging inside. Let me tell you about a man named Daniel. Daniel worked in a busy office where pressure lived in every conversation. Meetings moved fast. Voices were sharp. Feedback often arrived without warmth. Every time his manager corrected him, Daniel felt a familiar heat in his chest. His mind raced through old memories. Teachers who dismissed him. A parent who expected perfection. He carried each comment home like a weight. At night, lying in bed, he replayed conversations word for word. His body stayed tense long after the day ended. One evening, after another restless night, Daniel attended a quiet meditation group. Not to fix himself. Not to become better. Just because he was tired of carrying so much. The teacher spoke softly about non-self. Not as philosophy, but as lived experience. He said, when criticism comes, notice what tightens. Is it the body reacting or the idea of who you think you are being threatened? Daniel listened, uncertain but curious. The next week, when his manager spoke abruptly in a meeting, Daniel felt the familiar tightening. But instead of arguing inside his head, he paused. He noticed the sensation in his chest. The rush of heat. The story forming. And then something shifted. He asked himself quietly, what if this is not about me? Not as avoidance. Not as denial. But as curiosity. He saw that his manager was under pressure from above. That the tone came from stress, not from truth about Daniel. That the words were conditions meeting conditions. The feedback still existed, but it no longer defined him. This is non-self in daily life. Not disappearing. Not becoming passive. But no longer wearing every experience as identity. Now let us pause together. If you are able, allow your body to soften. If you are listening while doing something else, simply let these words wash through you. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. If it feels right, place one hand on your chest or belly. Breathe in through the nose for a slow count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale gently for a slow count of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again. Inhale 4. Exhale 8. Notice where the body holds tension right now. Chest, throat, stomach. You do not need to change anything. Just notice. Now ask yourself one quiet question. What am I taking personally that may not be personal at all? Stay with the question for one breath. No answer required. Just space. Silently offer yourself this phrase. I do not need to carry what is not mine. Rest here for a moment. When you begin to see non-self clearly, something softens inside. Life still brings problems. People still act from their own confusion. But the sting lessens. You begin to recognize that every reaction you meet is shaped by someone else's history. Their fears. Their habits. Their karma unfolding in that moment. And your karma is simply how you respond. The Buddha never taught that nothing matters. He taught that clinging is what turns pain into suffering. When you stop taking everything personally, you gain freedom. Freedom to respond instead of react. Freedom to listen without shrinking. Freedom to stand steady without hardening. This does not make you indifferent. It makes you clear. And clarity is the beginning of peace. As we move forward, we will explore how this clarity opens the door to a softer way of meeting the world. A way that protects the heart without building walls. A way that allows kindness to arise without self-abandonment. Let us continue, gently, into the next teaching, the second teaching, loving kindness. Softening without submitting. It is late afternoon. The day has already asked too much of you. You are sitting in traffic, or at a desk, or at the edge of a conversation you do not want to have. Someone's presence feels sharp. Not loud. Just sharp enough to make your body brace. Your shoulders rise slightly. Your breath becomes shallow without permission. The heart tightens, preparing for impact. This is the moment many people mistake hardness for protection. The mind whispers, close. Defend. Do not let them in. And so the body armors itself. The voice becomes cold. The heart pulls back. But inside that armor, something else happens. Warmth disappears. Joy thins. Connection dries out. This is the knot of our second teaching. We fear that kindness will make us weak. We believe that softening means surrendering our boundaries. We confuse compassion with self-abandonment. The Buddha saw this confusion clearly. He taught loving kindness not as politeness, not as submission, but as a powerful inner posture that protects the heart without closing it. In Pali, this practice is called metta. It means goodwill. A steady wish for well-being that begins inside and radiates outward. Metta is not about changing others. It is about changing the climate of your own mind. When the mind rests in goodwill, hostility finds no home. When the heart is soft and clear, cruelty has nowhere to land. Loving kindness does not say yes to harm. It says no without hatred. Let me tell you about a woman named Mira. Mira was known as kind. Too kind. Friends came to her with endless problems. Co-workers leaned on her without noticing the weight. Family members expected her availability at all hours. Mira rarely said no. And when she did, guilt followed like a shadow. At night, lying in bed, she felt empty. Not peaceful empty. Drained empty. Her chest ached with resentment she did not want to admit. She believed kindness meant always giving. Even when nothing remained. One day, exhausted and close to tears, Mira attended a retreat. She expected to learn how to be calmer. Instead, she learned how to be kinder to herself. The teacher spoke about metta as inner strength. as a warmth that does not collapse when pressure comes. He said, "Loving kindness is not a door you leave unlocked. It is a fire that burns steadily without consuming you." Mira practiced silently. At first the words felt unfamiliar, almost undeserved. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. Something softened in her chest. Not weakness. Relief. Over time, she noticed a change. When someone asked for more than she could give, her body no longer froze. She could feel goodwill without compliance. She could say no without turning cold. This is the power of loving kindness when it is rooted in wisdom. The Buddha taught that hatred cannot be ended by hatred. Only by non-hatred. The Buddha taught that hatred cannot be ended by hatred. Only by non-hatred. But non-hatred does not mean no boundaries. It means boundaries without poison. Now let us practice together. If you are able, allow your body to settle. If you are busy or moving, keep listening gently. Let your shoulders soften. Let the tongue rest in the mouth. Place one hand on your heart if that feels safe. Allow the breath to be natural. No counting. No forcing. Simply feel the breath arriving and leaving. Silently offer yourself these phrases. Do not rush. May I be safe. Let the words land in the body. May I be peaceful. Notice any resistance. If it appears, meet it kindly. May I be healthy. May I be free. Stay with yourself for a few breaths. Now bring to mind someone you love easily. Someone whose presence softens you. Offer them the same wishes. May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be free. Let the feeling expand gently. Now bring to mind someone neutral. A face you see but do not know well. Offer the same wishes. And now, only if it feels possible, bring to mind someone difficult. Not the most painful one. Just someone mildly challenging. Notice the body. Stay connected to your breath. Offer this phrase. May you be free from the suffering that causes harm. You are not excusing behavior. You are protecting your own heart. Rest here for a moment. Loving kindness does not make you passive. It makes you steady. When the heart is steady, you can act wisely. You can say no without guilt. You can step back without bitterness. Metta creates inner safety. And from safety, clarity arises. When someone is harsh, you no longer need to harden. When someone is needy, you no longer need to disappear. You remain present and intact. This is how loving kindness changes how you see problems. Instead of asking, "How do I protect myself?" you begin to ask, "How do I stay rooted in goodwill while honoring my limits?" The Buddha did not ask us to like everyone. He asked us to stop poisoning our own hearts. And this is the quiet miracle of metta. The world may not soften. But you do not need to harden to survive it. As this warmth becomes familiar, another capacity awakens. The ability to return to yourself in the middle of life. Again and again. And that return begins with something very simple. Something you carry with you always. Your breath. Let us move gently into the next teaching, the third teaching, mindfulness of breathing. Returning home. It happens quickly. Almost invisibly. You are in the middle of an ordinary moment. Standing in line. Washing a cup. Reading a message that was meant to be simple. And suddenly your body reacts. The heart speeds up. The breath becomes shallow. The mind jumps forward or backward in time. You are no longer here. You are in what might happen. You are in what already happened. You are trying to prepare, fix, defend, replay. This is the moment the mind leaves home. The psychological knot here is subtle but powerful. We believe that thinking faster will protect us. That rehearsing every possible outcome will keep us safe. So the mind runs. The body follows. And before you know it, a small problem has filled your entire inner world. The Buddha noticed this pattern with extraordinary precision. He saw that suffering does not require a dramatic event. It only requires absence. Absence from the present moment. So he offered a practice so simple it is often overlooked. Mindfulness of breathing. In Pali, anapanasati. Awareness of the breath as it is. Not to control life. Not to escape difficulty. But to come back. Back to the body. Back to now. Back to where choice becomes possible again. The breath is always happening. Even when the mind is lost. And because it is always here, it becomes a doorway home. Let me tell you about a woman named Elena. Elena described herself as calm on the outside, capable, reliable. But inside, her mind rarely rested. She planned conversations days in advance, replayed small mistakes for hours, lay awake at night tracing the same thoughts again and again. Her body lived in a low hum of tension. A tight chest. A shallow breath. Doctors found nothing wrong. But Elena felt exhausted all the time. One evening, after another sleepless night, she attended a short meditation class. Not because she believed in it, but because she did not know what else to try. The teacher did not ask her to stop thinking. He did not ask her to relax. He said, "Notice your breath." That is all. At first, Elena felt frustrated. The mind kept wandering. The breath felt dull. But slowly, something unexpected happened. She noticed that when she followed one full exhale, her shoulders dropped slightly. When she stayed with one inhale, the chest softened just a little. The problems did not disappear, but the grip around them loosened. This is the quiet power of breathing awareness. The Buddha taught that between what happens and how we respond, there is a space. And the breath lives in that space. When you return to the breath, you return to choice. Not the choice to fix everything, but the choice not to add another layer of suffering. Now let us practice together. If you are able, allow the body to settle where it is. You do not need perfect posture. You do not need silence. Let your shoulders drop. Let the jaw soften. Place one hand on your belly or chest if that feels supportive. Now begin to notice the breath. Do not change it yet. Just feel where it enters, where it leaves. Now gently guide the breath. Inhale through the nose for a slow count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale slowly for a count of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again. Inhale 4. Exhale 8. Let the exhale be a letting go. As if the body is setting something down. Notice what happens in the chest, in the belly, in the shoulders. If thoughts arise, that is not a failure. That is the practice. Each time you notice the mind has wandered, you are already back. Now ask yourself one gentle question. Where am I right now? Do not answer with words. Answer with sensation. One more breath. Inhale 4. Exhale 8. Silently offer this phrase. I am here now. Rest for a moment. The Buddha taught that the breath is a bridge between body and mind, between reaction and wisdom. You do not need to wait for calm to begin breathing. Breathing creates calm. When the mind is scattered, the breath gathers it. When the heart is overwhelmed, the breath steadies it. This is why the breath changes how you see problems. A problem seen from panic looks enormous. The same problem seen from presence looks workable. Or sometimes, it no longer looks like a problem at all. Breathing does not remove difficulty. It removes unnecessary urgency. Elena began practicing with the breath throughout her day. Before opening her email. Before responding to a message. Before trying to fall asleep. She noticed something subtle but life-changing. She no longer felt trapped inside her thoughts. She could step out, even briefly. That step was enough. The Buddha never promised a life without trouble. He offered a way to meet trouble without losing yourself. The breath is how you stay. Stay with discomfort without drowning in it. Stay with emotion without acting it out. Stay with life without bracing against it. This is what it means to return home. Not to a place without problems, but to a place inside you that is steady enough to face them. Try this once today. Just once. Before you respond. Before you explain. Before you react. Take one breath. Inhale 4. Exhale 8. Notice what changes. As this practice deepens, another wisdom begins to appear. The understanding that words have power. That speech can heal or harm. And that sometimes, the most skillful response begins with a pause. The fourth teaching, right speech. Pausing before reacting. It often begins in an ordinary moment. So ordinary that you do not see the danger until it has already passed. You are reading a message on your phone. The words are brief. The tone feels sharp, or dismissive, or unclear. Or you are sitting across from someone at a table. Their voice tightens. Their eyes look away for just a second too long. Something inside you contracts. Your stomach tightens first. Then your chest. Your breath shortens. And before you are fully aware of it, words rise up inside you. Prepared. Sharp. Urgent. You feel the pressure to speak. To explain. To defend. To correct. This is the exact moment right speech becomes possible. And it is also the moment it is most often forgotten. The psychological knot here is ancient and familiar. We believe that speaking quickly will protect us. That if we do not respond immediately, we will lose ground. Lose respect. Lose control. So we speak from tension. From fear. From the need to be understood at any cost. And afterward, even if our words were accurate, something feels wrong. The body stays agitated. The relationship feels bruised. The mind replays the scene again and again. The Buddha paid very close attention to this human habit. He noticed that much of our suffering does not come from what happens, but from what we say while we are still burning. He taught right speech not as moral behavior, but as a form of protection. Protection for the mind. Protection for relationships. Protection for the heart. Right speech is not about saying the right thing. It is about speaking from the right place. In the Eightfold Path, right speech asks 4 gentle questions. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Is this the right time? But these are not checkboxes. They are mirrors. They ask you to look inward before words leave your mouth. The Buddha understood something deeply practical. Once words are released, they cannot be taken back. They shape karma immediately. They condition the next moment. And the one after that. Speech is action. And action leaves traces. Let me tell you about a man named Thomas. Thomas was thoughtful, intelligent, and deeply sensitive. He cared about honesty. He valued clarity. But when conflict appeared, his words became sharp. Not cruel, but precise in a way that cut. When someone misunderstood him, he corrected them immediately. When someone crossed a line, he pointed it out on the spot. He believed this was integrity. Yet his relationships were strained. Conversations escalated quickly. Even small disagreements felt exhausting. Thomas often said, "I am just being honest." But inside, his body told a different story. His heart raced during arguments. His breath stayed shallow long after conversations ended. One evening, after a particularly painful exchange with someone he loved, Thomas sat alone, staring at the wall. He had spoken the truth. But he had lost the connection. That night, he attended a Dharma talk on right speech. The teacher said something simple. Truth spoken from agitation is still agitation. Truth spoken from calm becomes wisdom. Thomas felt those words land in his chest. He realized he had been speaking while burning. While the nervous system was activated. While the body was in fight mode. His words were accurate, but his timing was wrong. The Buddha taught that silence can sometimes be more skillful than speech. Not silence from fear, but silence from wisdom. The pause before speech is where freedom lives. This pause is not suppression. It is space. Space for the breath to return. Space for the body to soften. Space for intention to clarify. Now let us slow down together. If you are able, allow your body to settle. Let your feet feel the ground beneath you. Let your shoulders drop. If it feels safe, place one hand on your belly. Take 3 slow breaths before response. Inhale gently through the nose. Exhale slowly. Again. And one more time. Notice how the urge to speak shifts when the body calms. Now ask yourself quietly, what am I hoping my words will accomplish right now? Stay with the question for one breath. This is the gateway to right speech. The Buddha never said do not speak. He said know when to speak. Right speech includes knowing when words will inflame rather than heal. When explanation becomes defense. When honesty becomes harm. Thomas began practicing one simple rule. He would not speak until his breath returned to his belly. At first, this felt impossible. Conversations moved quickly. Silence felt awkward. But something surprising happened. When he paused, others often softened too. The intensity in the room decreased. The conversation slowed. And when he did speak, his words landed differently. They were fewer, clearer, less charged. He discovered that much of what he used to say did not need to be said at all. This is a deep and uncomfortable truth. Not every reaction needs a response. Not every truth needs to be voiced in the moment it arises. Right speech also means letting go of winning. The Buddha taught that speech rooted in craving for victory always creates suffering. Even when you win the argument, you lose peace. Words spoken to dominate, shame, or prove superiority poison the speaker first. You can feel this in the body. Tight jaw, raised shoulders, burning chest. These sensations are not signs of strength. They are signs of harm. Let us return to practice. If you are able, soften your posture again. Unclench the jaw. Let the tongue rest gently in the mouth. Take one slow breath. Now reflect. Is there a conversation you are replaying, something you wish you had said differently or not said at all? Do not judge yourself. Just notice. Now offer yourself this phrase silently. I am learning to protect my peace. Rest with that for one breath. The Buddha described right speech as abstaining from four things: harsh speech, false speech, divisive speech, idle speech that harms. But beneath these rules is something gentler. Right speech arises naturally when the heart is settled. When the mind is clear, speech becomes simple, direct, unforced. When the mind is agitated, even kind words carry sharp edges. This is why pausing is essential. Pausing before reacting interrupts karma. It changes the direction of the next moment. A single breath before speaking can save years of regret. Let me tell you about a woman named Lena. Lena grew up in a household where silence was dangerous. If you did not speak up, you were overlooked. If you did not defend yourself, you were blamed. As an adult, Lena spoke quickly. She explained everything. She filled silence with words. When her partner criticized something small, Lena launched into long explanations, justifications, corrections. Arguments escalated fast. One night, after another painful exchange, her partner said quietly, "I do not need you to explain. I need you to listen." Those words stayed with Lena. She began practicing silence. Not cold silence. Present silence. When discomfort arose, she noticed the urge to speak. She breathed instead. At first, this felt terrifying. Her body shook with unexpressed energy. But slowly, something changed. She realized that listening did not mean agreeing. Pausing did not mean losing herself. It meant allowing space. Her partner began to feel heard. Lena began to feel calmer. This is right speech as relationship medicine. Words are not just sounds. They are nervous system signals. When you speak calmly, you offer safety. When you speak reactively, you spread fear. The Buddha knew this long before neuroscience confirmed it. Right speech regulates not only your own nervous system, but the nervous systems around you. This is why it is such a powerful practice. Now pause again. Take one slow breath. Ask yourself quietly, what happens in my body right before I speak? Stay curious. This awareness alone begins to change everything. As right speech deepens, you may notice something unexpected. You speak less, but your words carry more weight. You explain less, but you are understood more clearly. You defend less, but you feel safer. This is not withdrawal. It is alignment. Right speech aligns intention, timing, and tone. The Buddha did not ask us to be silent monks in the world. He asked us to be mindful speakers. To know the difference between expression and reaction. Between truth and impulse. This teaching changes how you see problems. Instead of asking, "What should I say?" you begin to ask, "Who am I being when I speak?" Are you being a frightened self-seeking protection or a grounded presence offering clarity? This question alone transforms communication. Let us practice one more time. If you are able, sit comfortably. Let your spine be upright but relaxed. Take 3 slow breaths. Now imagine a future conversation that usually triggers you. Do not go into details. Just notice the body response. Now imagine yourself pausing. 1 breath before speaking. Feel the difference. Now offer this phrase silently. I choose response, not reaction. Rest. Right speech is not perfection. You will forget. You will speak too quickly sometimes. That is human. The practice is not to be flawless. The practice is to return. Each time you remember to pause, you weaken old habits and strengthen peace. As this teaching settles, another truth becomes clear. Words shape actions, and actions shape self-respect. When speech aligns with wisdom, action follows naturally. This brings us gently to the next teaching. Right action. Choosing self-respect. The fifth teaching, right action. Choosing self-respect. It often appears as a small moment. So small that it barely registers as a decision. A message arrives late at night. You are already tired. Your body wants rest. But your fingers move anyway. You reply. You agree. You say yes when something inside you whispered no. Or you stay silent when a boundary has been crossed. You smile when you feel uncomfortable. You keep going when your body is asking you to stop. This is where right action lives. Not in dramatic choices, but in these quiet moments where you either honor yourself or abandon yourself. The psychological knot here is subtle and deeply conditioned. Many of us learned early that goodness means self-sacrifice. That being kind means enduring discomfort. That being spiritual means putting yourself last. So we act against our own needs. Not because we want to, but because we are afraid of what will happen if we do not. Afraid of disappointing. Afraid of being seen as selfish. Afraid of being rejected. The Buddha saw this suffering clearly. He taught right action not as obedience to rules, but as alignment with wisdom and compassion. And compassion, in the Buddha's teaching, always includes yourself. Right action means choosing behaviors that do not create harm. Harm to others. And harm to you. It means acting in ways that support dignity, clarity, and peace. Let me tell you about a woman named Hannah. Hannah was reliable. Everyone knew they could count on her. She stayed late at work. Answered messages immediately. Helped friends at the cost of her own rest. On the outside, she looked strong. Capable. Generous. Inside, she felt increasingly resentful. Not angry in obvious ways, but tired in a deep, bone-level way. Her body spoke first. Headaches. Tight shoulders. A constant heaviness in her chest. Doctors told her to reduce stress. But Hannah did not know how. One day, during a meditation retreat, a teacher spoke about right action. He said, "If your actions are rooted in fear, they will never lead to peace." Those words stayed with her. Hannah realized that many of her choices were not acts of kindness. They were acts of fear. Fear of being disliked. Fear of conflict. Fear of being unnecessary. She began to notice the moment before she said yes. There was always a pause. A brief sensation in the body. A tightening or a sinking feeling. She had ignored it for years. This sensation is wisdom speaking through the body. The Buddha taught that the body knows before the mind explains. Right action begins by listening. Now let us pause together. If you are able, soften your posture. Let your feet feel the ground. Unclench your jaw. Take a slow breath. Notice what the body feels like when you imagine saying yes to something that drains you. Notice what it feels like when you imagine saying no. No analysis. Just sensation. This awareness is the beginning of self-respect. The Buddha taught that ethical action is not about punishment or reward. It is about cause and effect. When you act against yourself, suffering follows. When you act with integrity, peace follows. This is karma in its most intimate form. Right action includes knowing when to step forward and when to step back. It includes knowing when helping becomes enabling. When patience becomes self-neglect. When silence becomes self-betrayal. Hannah began with one small change. She stopped answering messages after a certain hour. No explanation. No apology. At first, guilt surged through her body. Her chest tightened. Her mind imagined disappointment everywhere. But something else happened too. Her breath deepened. Her sleep improved. Her mornings felt lighter. The world did not collapse. Most people adjusted. And those who did not revealed something important. Right action reveals truth. It shows you which relationships are rooted in mutual respect and which rely on your self-erasure. The Buddha himself modeled this. He did not try to save everyone. He taught those who were ready. He rested when his body required rest. He protected his energy not out of selfishness, but out of wisdom. He understood that a depleted mind cannot serve anyone. Now let us practice. If you are able, allow your body to settle again. Place one hand on your belly or chest. Breathe in through the nose for a slow count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for a count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again. Inhale 4. Exhale 6. Let the exhale be a gentle boundary. Now ask yourself one quiet question. What action am I taking right now that costs me my self-respect? Do not answer with words. Just notice what arises. Now offer this phrase silently. I am allowed to protect my energy. Rest with that for one breath. Right action is not about becoming rigid. It is about becoming honest. When you act from self-respect, your actions become simpler. You stop over-explaining. You stop rescuing. You stop betraying your body to keep others comfortable. This does not make you unkind. It makes you trustworthy to yourself. Let me tell you about another man, named Joseph. Joseph avoided conflict at all costs. When something bothered him, he swallowed it. He believed this made him peaceful. But his body told a different story. Chronic tension. A clenched jaw. Sleepless nights. In relationships, resentment built quietly. And eventually, it erupted in moments he did not recognize himself. During a study group, Joseph learned that right action includes honest action. Not explosive honesty, but timely, respectful truth. He practiced something very small. When something did not work for him, he named it early. Not with anger. With clarity. This felt terrifying at first. But over time, something softened. His body felt safer. His mind felt clearer. Right action reduced inner conflict. Because when your actions align with your values, the mind does not have to argue with itself. This is one of the deepest forms of peace. The Buddha taught the middle way. Not indulgence. Not self-denial. Right action lives in this middle space. You do not have to say yes to everything. And you do not have to say no harshly. You can act with firmness and warmth at the same time. This is a skill. And like all skills, it grows with practice. Now pause again. Take one slow breath. Imagine one small situation in your life right now where you are acting against yourself. Do not try to fix it yet. Just see it clearly. Seeing clearly is already an act of wisdom. Right action is not about becoming a better person. It is about becoming a whole person. When you honor yourself, your kindness becomes genuine. Your generosity becomes sustainable. You give because you want to. Not because you are afraid. This changes how you see problems. Problems are no longer signs that you must endure more. They become invitations to act differently. To choose clarity over habit. Self-respect over approval. Hannah continued practicing. Over time, she noticed something unexpected. She was still kind. Still helpful. But no longer exhausted. Her yes became meaningful. Her no became peaceful. This is right action bearing fruit. You will forget sometimes. You will fall back into old patterns. That is not failure. Each moment you notice and choose again, the path strengthens. As this teaching settles, another quality begins to grow. The ability to remain steady even when circumstances are unstable. To not be pulled apart by praise or blame. This is the ground of equanimity. And that is where we will go next. The sixth teaching, equanimity. Staying steady in storms. There is a moment you may recognize. Nothing dramatic is happening. And yet, inside, everything feels unstable. A message arrives that you did not expect. Praise that lifts you too high. Or criticism that drops you too low. Your mood swings with the words of others. Your sense of worth rises and falls like a small boat on rough water. The body feels it immediately. A rush of heat when you feel seen. A sinking heaviness when you feel dismissed. You are not weak for this. You are human. This is the psychological knot of our sixth teaching. We mistake balance for numbness. We think steadiness means not feeling anything. So we cling to pleasant moments and resist painful ones. The mind becomes busy managing outcomes. Chasing approval. Avoiding blame. Trying to control the weather of life. But the Buddha noticed something quietly profound. The more you chase pleasant experience, the more fragile you become. The more you resist discomfort, the more power it has over you. So he taught equanimity. In Pali, upekkha. It means evenness of heart. A steady presence that can meet pleasure and pain without being pulled apart by either. Equanimity is not indifference. It is intimacy without attachment. It does not close the heart. It stabilizes it. Let me tell you about a man named Aaron. Aaron lived in cycles. When things were going well, he felt alive, confident, open. When something went wrong, even something small, his entire inner world collapsed. A comment from a supervisor could ruin his weekend. A delayed reply from someone he cared about could send his mind into spirals of doubt. He told himself he was sensitive, too emotional. But sensitivity was not the problem. Attachment was. Aaron had learned to rest his sense of safety on things outside himself. Success, approval, certainty. When those things wavered, so did he. One evening, exhausted by the constant emotional whiplash, Aaron attended a quiet talk at a small center. The teacher spoke about equanimity. He said, "When your peace depends on conditions, you will always be negotiating with life." Those words landed deeply. Aaron realized he was always negotiating. If this goes well, I can relax. If they respond kindly, I am okay. If nothing changes, I can breathe. His peace had conditions. The Buddha taught that true peace does not come from arranging the world. It comes from training the heart. Equanimity is that training. It begins with seeing clearly. Everything that arises will pass. Praise and blame. Gain and loss. Pleasure and pain. When you forget this, you ride the waves. When you remember it, you become the ocean. Now let us pause together. If you are able, let your body settle. Feel the weight of yourself where you are sitting or standing. Let the shoulders drop. Let the face soften. Take one slow breath in. And a longer breath out. Again. Allow the exhale to be slightly longer than the inhale. This is the breath of equanimity. Not forcing calm. Allowing steadiness. Notice what is present right now. Perhaps ease. Perhaps discomfort. Do not change it. Just name it silently. Ease. Or discomfort. And notice that you are still here. Now ask yourself gently. What am I clinging to right now and what am I resisting? Stay with the questions for one breath. No answers needed. Equanimity begins here. Aaron began practicing this awareness daily. When something pleasant happened, he noticed the urge to hold it. When something unpleasant happened, he noticed the urge to push it away. Instead of acting on either impulse, he paused. He reminded himself, this too will change. At first, this felt flat. Almost disappointing. He worried equanimity would dull his joy. But something unexpected happened. His joy became quieter. But deeper. It no longer depended on everything going right. And when disappointment came, it no longer destroyed him. This is the difference between excitement and peace. The Buddha did not teach us to stop enjoying life. He taught us to stop being owned by it. Equanimity allows you to care deeply without being consumed. You still feel love. You still feel sadness. But you are no longer drowned by them. Now let us practice more deeply. If you are able, place one hand on your belly. Feel the natural rise and fall of the breath. Do not control it. Just stay. Now imagine something pleasant in your life. Something you enjoy. Notice how the body responds. Perhaps warmth. Expansion. Now silently say, this is pleasant. And add, and it will change. Notice what happens. Now imagine something mildly unpleasant. Not overwhelming. Notice the body response. Perhaps tightening. Constriction. Now silently say, this is unpleasant. And add, and it will change. Notice what happens. You are not minimizing experience. You are contextualizing it. This is wisdom. The Buddha taught that suffering arises not from feeling, but from clinging to feeling. Equanimity releases the grip. It allows experience to move through you instead of defining you. Aaron noticed that as equanimity grew, his reaction slowed. He no longer rushed to fix everything. He listened more. He responded less. People around him began to feel safer. Because he was no longer reactive. Equanimity is contagious. When you are steady, Others often soften. This does not mean life becomes easy. It means you become resilient. Storms still come, but they no longer tear you apart. Now pause again. Take one slow breath. Ask yourself quietly, what would change if I did not need this moment to be different? Let the question rest. Equanimity also protects you from burnout. When you care without equanimity, you exhaust yourself. When you help without equanimity, you take responsibility for outcomes you cannot control. The Buddha was deeply compassionate and deeply equanimous. He offered teachings freely and accepted that not everyone would listen. This balance allowed him to teach for decades without losing himself. You are allowed to care without carrying the weight of the world. Equanimity gives you that permission. As this teaching settles, you may notice a subtle shift. You begin to trust life a little more. Not because it is predictable, but because you are less dependent on it behaving a certain way. This changes how you see problems. Problems are no longer emergencies. They are conditions. Conditions that can be met with steadiness. You stop asking, why is this happening to me, and begin asking, how can I stay balanced while this unfolds? This is a profound shift. It returns power to where it belongs. Inside you. Now let us practice one final time. If you are able, close your eyes or soften your gaze. Take a slow inhale and a longer exhale. Feel your body breathing itself. Now offer this phrase silently. May I meet pleasure without clinging. May I meet pain without resistance. Rest with these words for one breath. Equanimity is not a destination. It is a relationship with change. Some days you will forget. You will be pulled into reactivity. That is not failure. Each time you remember, you strengthen the heart. As equanimity grows, another teaching becomes clear. The understanding that pain itself is not the main problem. It is the second layer we add that turns pain into suffering. This insight is ancient, simple, and life-changing. And it leads us gently to the next teaching. The two arrows. Ending secondary suffering. The seventh teaching, the two arrows. Ending secondary suffering. It usually begins with something small. A comment that lands the wrong way. A plan that falls apart. A pain in the body that was not there yesterday. The first reaction is immediate. The body tightens. The heart flinches. This first pain is natural. Unavoidable. But then something else happens. The mind arrives. Why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? How long will this last? This should not be happening. The body tightens again. But this time, the pain multiplies. This is the moment the Buddha spoke about with quiet clarity. He called it the two arrows. The first arrow is the pain that comes from life itself. Loss, illness, disappointment, harsh words. The second arrow is the pain we add through resistance, fear, and story. The Buddha said the first arrow is unavoidable. The second is optional. Most of our suffering comes not from what happened, but from what we add to what happened. This teaching is not meant to deny pain. It is meant to stop the unnecessary bleeding. The psychological knot here is deep and habitual. We believe that worrying will protect us. That replaying will solve something. That tightening will prepare us. So when pain arises, the mind immediately attacks it, judges it, fights it. And in that fight, suffering doubles. Let me tell you about a woman named Claire. Claire was strong, capable. She had lived through difficult things and survived. But when something painful happened, her mind went to war. If she felt sadness, she criticized herself for being weak. If she felt anxious, she told herself she was failing at life. She did not just feel pain. She punished herself for feeling it. One afternoon, Claire received news that a project she cared deeply about was cancelled. The first arrow landed. Her chest dropped. Her breath caught. Then the second arrow arrived. I should have seen this coming. I wasted my time. I will never get another chance. By evening, she was exhausted. Not from the loss alone, but from the inner battle. Later that week, she attended a quiet talk where the teacher spoke about the two arrows. He said, pain is part of being alive. Suffering is what happens when pain meets resistance. Something softened in Claire. She realized she had been shooting herself with the second arrow every time pain appeared. Not because she was cruel, but because she did not know another way. The Buddha taught that awareness interrupts this cycle. When pain arises, you can meet it directly. Feel it. Name it. And stop there. This does not make the pain disappear, but it keeps it from multiplying. Now let us practice together. If you are able, let your body settle. Feel the surface beneath you. Allow your shoulders to drop. Take a slow breath in. And a longer breath out. Again, notice any discomfort present right now. Physical or emotional. Do not analyze it. Just notice where it lives. Now silently say, "This is the first arrow." Notice what happens. Often, something softens. Because naming pain without judgment creates space. Now notice any story around the pain. Any fear about the future. Any self-blame. Silently say, "This is the second arrow." You are not trying to remove it yet. You are learning to see it. Now offer this phrase inside. "I do not need to add to this pain." Rest with that for one breath. The Buddha did not teach stoicism. He taught clarity. The first arrow still hurts. Grief still aches. Loss still stings. But without the second arrow, pain moves through naturally. Like a wave that rises and falls. With the second arrow, pain becomes a story with no end. Claire began practicing this teaching in daily life. When anxiety arose, she noticed the first arrow. Tight chest. Fast breath. Then she noticed the second arrow. The story of failure. The fear of collapse. Instead of arguing with the story, she returned to the body. She placed one hand on her chest. She breathed slowly. And she said quietly, "This is hard. And I am here." Something shifted. The anxiety did not vanish instantly. But it stopped spiraling. The Buddha taught that compassion begins with not abandoning yourself in pain. When you add judgment to pain, you abandon yourself. When you meet pain directly, you stay. This teaching changes how you see problems. Instead of asking, "How do I make this stop?" you begin to ask, "What am I adding to this moment?" Often, the answer is fear. Or resistance. Or a belief that pain should not exist. Life includes pain. This is not a failure. The Buddha never promised comfort. He promised freedom from unnecessary suffering. Now let us go deeper into practice. If you are able, soften your body again. Unclench the jaw. Let the tongue rest. Breathe in through the nose for a slow count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for a count of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again. As you breathe out, imagine releasing the second arrow. Not the pain itself, but the tension around it. Notice what remains. Often, what remains is sadness, or disappointment, or fatigue. These are survivable. The second arrow is what tells you they are not. Claire discovered that much of her exhaustion came from fighting reality. When she stopped arguing with pain, her energy returned. She still grieved losses. She still felt fear. But she no longer collapsed under them. This is resilience born of wisdom. The Buddha taught that suffering less does not mean feeling less. It means adding less. Less judgment. Less resistance. Less self-attack. This teaching is especially important in moments of emotional pain. When someone hurts you, the first arrow is the hurt itself. The second arrow is the story. They should not have done that. This means I am unlovable. This will always happen. When you notice the story, you can pause. You can breathe. You can choose not to sharpen the arrow. This does not mean you excuse harm. It means you protect your heart from unnecessary wounds. Now pause again. Take one slow breath. Ask yourself gently, what second arrow am I carrying right now? Do not judge the answer. Just notice. Now offer this phrase silently. I allow pain without adding suffering. Rest. The two arrows teaching is simple, but it requires practice. You will forget. You will add the second arrow sometimes. That is human. Each time you notice, you weaken an old habit and strengthen a new one. Over time, you begin to trust yourself with pain. You stop fearing it, because you know you will not abandon yourself when it arrives. This is deep safety. As this teaching settles, another wisdom becomes clear. Sometimes the most skillful response is not speaking at all, not explaining, not defending, but resting in silence. Silence not as withdrawal, but as clarity. This is noble silence. And that is where we will go next. The eighth teaching, noble silence. When not responding is wisdom. There is a moment that comes for many people. It arrives right after the urge to explain. Right after the words line up in your mind, sharp and ready. You feel it in the body first. A tightening in the throat. A pressure behind the eyes. The impulse to speak so strong it feels like relief is waiting on the other side of sound. Someone has misunderstood you. Someone has criticized you unfairly. Someone has pushed where you are already tender. And everything in you wants to answer. This is the moment noble silence becomes visible. The psychological knot here is subtle and exhausting. We believe that if we do not respond, we will disappear. That silence means weakness. That not explaining means we will be judged, dismissed, or forgotten. So we speak. We justify. We defend. We clarify again and again. And somehow, the more we speak, the more tired we feel. The Buddha understood this pattern deeply. He taught noble silence not as avoidance, not as suppression, but as a profound form of wisdom. In Pali, it is called Bhava, the silence of the noble ones. This silence is not empty. It is full of clarity. It arises when speech would not bring understanding. When words would only add heat. When explanation would become self-betrayal. The Buddha himself often remained silent when questions were rooted in ego, argument, or confusion. Not because he lacked compassion, but because he saw that words would not help. Sometimes, silence is the most compassionate response available. Let me tell you about a woman named Noor. Noor was articulate and thoughtful. She believed in communication. She believed that if people just understood her intentions, everything would be resolved. So when conflict arose, she explained. And then explained again. And again. Her voice grew tired. Her body tense. Often, the other person did not soften. They argued more. Misunderstood more. Pushed harder. Noor felt invisible. One evening, after a particularly draining exchange with a family member, Noor sat quietly with the teacher. She asked, "What else can I do when they refuse to understand me?" The teacher listened and then said gently, "Why do you believe they are available for understanding?" The question stopped her. Noor realized she had been offering explanations to someone who was not listening. Not because they were incapable, but because they were defended. The Buddha taught that speech is only skillful when there is receptivity. Otherwise, silence is kinder. Not as punishment, but as self-respect. This is where noble silence meets right action. Silence is not always wise. But when speech comes from the need to be validated, silence restores dignity. Now let us pause together. If you are able, let your body soften. Feel the ground beneath you. Let the jaw unclench. Let the tongue rest. Take 3 slow breaths before response. Inhale gently. Exhale slowly. Again, and one more time. Notice what happens to the urge to speak when the body calms. Now ask yourself quietly. Am I speaking to be understood or am I speaking to be safe? There is no wrong answer. Only awareness. Noble silence does not mean never speaking. It means knowing when words are unnecessary. The Buddha taught that silence can be a teaching. A mirror. A boundary. When you stop responding to provocation, something shifts. At first, it feels uncomfortable. The nervous system is used to discharge tension through words. Silence feels like holding a charged wire. But if you stay with it, the charge begins to dissipate. The body learns that it is safe without explanation. Noor practiced this slowly. The next time her family member criticized her choices, she felt the familiar surge. Her mouth opened slightly. Then she paused. She took one breath. And instead of explaining, she said nothing. The silence was awkward. The other person filled it with more words. But something important happened. Noor did not feel smaller. She felt steadier. The criticism passed through without lodging. This is noble silence in practice. Not cold. Not withdrawn. But grounded. The Buddha taught that not every statement deserves a response. And not every silence is avoidance. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Let us practice together more deeply. If you are able, place one hand on your belly. Breathe in through the nose for a slow count of 4. 1. 2, 3, 4. Exhale slowly for a count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again. Let the exhale signal permission to not respond. Now bring to mind a situation where you often over-explain. Do not replay the details. Just notice the body response. Tightness. Urgency. Heat. Now imagine choosing silence instead. One breath. No defense. Notice what the body feels like. Often, there is fear. And beneath the fear, relief. Noble silence protects your energy. When you explain yourself repeatedly, you leak energy. When you remain silent with clarity, you conserve it. This does not mean you never speak your truth. It means you choose the timing. The Buddha taught that wise speech is rare. Because most speech arises from habit. Noble silence interrupts habit. It creates space. Nor noticed that as she practiced silence, her words changed. When she did speak, they were shorter, clearer, less reactive. People began to listen more. Because her silence had weight. Silence teaches others how to treat you. Not through intimidation, but through self-possession. There is a deep dignity in not responding to every provocation. It says, I trust myself enough to remain still. The Buddha also taught that silence can end cycles. When one person stops feeding conflict, conflict starves. This does not always change the other person. But it changes you. And that is where karma shifts. Now pause again. Take one slow breath. Ask yourself gently, what am I trying to prove right now? Stay with the question for one breath. Often, when the need to prove dissolves, silence becomes natural. Noble silence is especially powerful in situations of manipulation. When someone tries to pull you into justification, silence refuses the game. This is not passive. It is discerning. The Buddha was once asked hostile questions meant to trap him. He remained silent. Not because he was afraid, but because he saw the intention. Silence can be a refusal to participate in harm. Now let us offer a gentle inner phrase. Silently say, my peace does not need explanation. Rest with that for one breath. Noble silence also applies inwardly. Not every thought deserves attention. Not every inner criticism needs engagement. When the mind attacks you, silence can be medicine. You do not need to answer every self-judging thought. You can let it pass. This inner silence is just as important as outer silence. The Buddha taught that mental chatter is also speech. And noble silence can be practiced with thoughts. When a harsh inner voice arises, you can choose not to argue. You can breathe instead. This is deep compassion. Noor began practicing this too. When self-doubt appeared, she noticed it. And did not respond. At first, it felt irresponsible. But over time, the thoughts lost intensity. Silence starved them. This is the same principle as with people. What you do not feed, weakens. Noble silence is not withdrawal from life. It is withdrawal from unnecessary struggle. As this teaching settles, you may notice something. You feel less pulled, less reactive, less strained. Your nervous system learns that safety does not depend on explanation. This changes how you see problems. Instead of asking, what should I say, you begin to ask, is speech needed here at all? Sometimes the answer is yes. And sometimes, silence is the wiser action. The Buddha never asked us to be mute. He asked us to be mindful. To know the cost of words. To know the power of stillness. Now let us practice one final time. If you are able, close your eyes or soften your gaze. Take 3 slow breaths. With each exhale, imagine releasing the urge to respond. Now offer this phrase silently. I allow silence to protect me. Rest. Noble silence will feel uncomfortable at first. Habit will resist it. That is normal. Each time you choose silence wisely, you strengthen inner authority. You stop chasing understanding from those who cannot offer it. And you begin to trust your own clarity. As this teaching integrates, another insight becomes possible. When you are no longer reacting, you begin to see clearly. You recognize when you are projecting old wounds onto present moments. This seeing is gentle and freeing. It is called clear seeing. And that is where we will go next. The 9th teaching, clear seeing. Recognizing projection. There is a quiet moment when something inside you reacts faster than thought. A glance feels like rejection. A silence feels like abandonment. A simple comment feels like criticism. Your body responds immediately. The chest tightens. The stomach sinks. The breath catches. And before you know it, a story has formed. They do not respect me. They are disappointed in me. I have done something wrong. This reaction feels convincing. Personal. Certain. But this is where the ninth teaching begins. The psychological knot here is subtle and powerful. We do not see the world as it is. We see the world through what we carry. Old wounds. Unfinished stories. Memories that live in the body. The Buddha called this lack of clear seeing. Not as a failure, but as a habit. When perception is filtered through fear or longing, we mistake projection for truth. Clear seeing is the practice of recognizing this. Not to judge yourself, but to free yourself. The Buddha taught that much of what we react to is not what is happening now, but what has happened before. Let me tell you about a woman named Isabel. Isabel was thoughtful and sensitive. In relationships, she listened carefully. Perhaps too carefully. When someone was quiet, she assumed distance. When someone was brief, she assumed irritation. Her body responded before she could stop it. A tightness in her chest. A familiar sinking feeling. She told herself she was intuitive. That she could read people well. But her relationships felt heavy. Filled with unspoken tension. One evening, during a meditation class, the teacher spoke about projection. He said, "The mind paints the present with colors from the past." Something inside Isabel paused. She realized that her reactions were not new. They were familiar. They carried the shape of childhood moments. Times when silence meant withdrawal. When distance meant danger. Her body had learned early to anticipate loss. So it saw loss everywhere. This is projection. The Buddha taught that projection is not wrong. It is protective. The mind learned to read signs quickly to avoid pain. But what once protected you can later imprison you. Clear seeing begins with slowing down. With separating what is actually happening from what the mind adds. Now let us pause together. If you are able, let your body settle. Feel the surface beneath you. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. Take a slow breath in. And a longer breath out. Again. Now bring to mind a recent moment that triggered you. Something small. Do not replay the story. Just notice the sensation in the body. Where do you feel it? Chest. Stomach. Throat. Now ask yourself gently. What am I assuming right now? Stay with the question for one breath. Clear seeing begins with this pause. Isabel began practicing this question daily. When her partner came home quiet, she felt the familiar tightening. Instead of reacting, she paused. She asked, "What am I assuming?" The answer surprised her. She was assuming abandonment. But when she looked closer, she saw something else. Her partner was tired. Preoccupied. Not withdrawing. The story dissolved. This did not happen all at once. At first, the assumptions were loud. But with practice, space appeared. Clear seeing is not about forcing positive interpretations. It is about noticing interpretation itself. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we confuse perception with reality. We believe the story because it feels true. But feeling true does not mean being true. Clear seeing allows experience to be as it is without immediately assigning meaning. Now let us practice more deeply. If you are able, place one hand on your chest. Feel the rise and fall of the breath. Do not change it. Now bring to mind someone who often triggers you. Just enough to notice a reaction. Notice the body. Now silently say, "This is a reaction." Pause. Now say, "I do not yet know what this means." Notice what happens. Often, tension softens. Because certainty is what tightens the body. Clear seeing introduces humility into perception. Not self-doubt, but openness. The Buddha taught that wisdom begins with not knowing. When you release the need to be right about your story, space appears. Isabel discovered something important. Many of her reactions were not about others. They were echoes. Old fears replaying. When she saw this, she stopped demanding reassurance immediately. She asked questions instead. She listened. Her relationships softened. Clear seeing also applies inwardly. When a harsh inner voice appears, it often speaks with borrowed authority. It sounds like truth. But it is often projection too. The voice of a parent, a teacher, a past failure. When you believe it without seeing it clearly, you suffer. The Buddha taught that thoughts are not commands. They are events. Clear seeing treats thoughts as weather, passing through, not orders to obey. Now pause again. Take one slow breath. Ask yourself gently, what story am I telling myself right now? Stay with the question. You do not need to answer it fully. Just seeing the story weakens its grip. Isabel began practicing this with her inner critic. When the voice said, "You are too much," she paused. She noticed the body response. And she asked, "Whose voice is this?" The answer came quietly. It was not hers. The criticism softened. Clear seeing does not erase pain. It prevents misplacement. You stop blaming the present for wounds from the past. This changes how you see problems. Instead of reacting immediately, you become curious. Instead of defending, you inquire. The Buddha taught that ignorance is not a moral failing. It is simply not seeing clearly. And seeing clearly is a skill. Now let us practice one more time. If you are able, soften your posture. Breathe in through the nose for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale slowly for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again. With each exhale, imagine releasing certainty. Now offer this phrase silently. I allow this moment to be seen clearly. Rest for one breath. Clear seeing grows slowly. You will still project sometimes. That is human. The practice is noticing sooner, recovering faster. Each time you see a projection, you reclaim energy that was lost to misunderstanding. You stop fighting phantoms. Isabel noticed that as clear seeing deepened, her body felt safer. Because it no longer needed to be on constant alert. She trusted herself to check reality. This trust is powerful. Clear seeing is not cold. It is kind. It allows others to be who they are without being cast into old roles. It allows you to be present without reliving the past. The Buddha taught that wisdom is the end of confusion. Not because life becomes simple, but because the mind becomes honest. Now pause again. Take one slow breath. Ask yourself gently, what would change if I stopped believing every thought? Stay with that question. Clear seeing leads naturally to the final teaching. Because when you see clearly, you begin to loosen your grip. You stop trying to control outcomes. You stop forcing understanding. You learn to let go. And that is the final doorway to peace. Letting go of control. That is where we will go next. The 10th teaching, letting go of control. There is a moment you may know well. It arrives when effort turns into strain. When trying becomes tightening. You have done everything you know how to do. You have explained, planned, adjusted, held things together with careful attention. And still, something is not moving. Your body feels it first. A constant tension in the shoulders. A shallow breath that never quite completes itself. Hands that clench even when nothing is there to hold. This is the moment control reveals itself. The psychological knot here is quiet but exhausting. We believe that if we loosen our grip, things will fall apart. That vigilance is love. That control is responsibility. So we hold. And hold. And hold. The Buddha saw this habit clearly. Not as a flaw. But as fear wearing the mask of care. He taught that suffering often arises not from what is happening, but from the mind insisting it must happen differently. Control is the mind saying, I will be safe only if this goes my way. The Buddha offered a gentler truth. Safety does not come from control. It comes from allowing. This does not mean passivity. It means releasing what was never yours to command. Let me tell you about a woman named Emily. Emily was competent, organized, highly aware. People trusted her because she managed things well. At work. In her family. In relationships. But beneath her capability lived constant tension. She anticipated problems before they arose. She replayed conversations, adjusting them mentally. She worried about outcomes long after her part was done. Her body never rested. Even during quiet moments, her jaw stayed tight. Her hands curled inward. She told herself she was being responsible. But one evening, after a small disagreement spiraled into hours of anxiety, Emily sat alone and noticed something for the first time. She was tired of holding everything. Not physically. Existentially. She attended a meditation evening where the teacher spoke about letting go. He did not say, "Stop caring." He said, "Notice what you are gripping." Emily realized she was gripping outcomes. Other people's emotions. Future moments that did not yet exist. The Buddha taught that clinging is the root of suffering. Clinging to pleasure. Clinging to certainty. Clinging to control. He taught that letting go is not loss. It is relief. Now let us pause together. If you are able, allow your body to settle. Feel the weight of yourself being held by the ground or chair. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench the jaw. Take a slow breath in. And a longer breath out. Again. With each exhale, imagine the hands of the body unclenching. Not forcing. Just opening. Notice where you hold control in the body. Often it lives in the shoulders. The belly. The throat. You do not need to change it. Just notice. Now ask yourself quietly. What am I trying to control right now? Stay with the question for one breath. Emily began practicing this question throughout her day. Before sending messages. Before difficult conversations. Before trying to sleep. Often, the answer surprised her. She was trying to control how she was perceived. How others would respond. Whether she would be safe later. But the Buddha taught something grounding. You can influence actions. You cannot control results. You can speak clearly. You cannot control how words land. You can act with integrity. You cannot control how others interpret it. Clinging to outcomes creates endless tension because outcomes are not yours. Emily practiced one small shift. After doing what she could, she would say silently, "This is no longer in my hands." At first, fear rose. If I let go, something bad will happen. But nothing collapsed. Life continued. And something else happened. Her body softened. Letting go did not remove responsibility. It removed excess burden. The Buddha taught that wise effort includes knowing when effort ends. Right effort does not mean constant effort. It means appropriate effort. Now let us practice more deeply. If you are able, place one hand on your belly. Breathe in gently. Exhale longer than the inhale. Again. With each exhale, imagine setting something down. Not everything. Just one thing you have been gripping. Now silently offer this phrase. I release what is not mine to carry. Stay with the sensation for one breath. Letting go often feels like vulnerability. Because control has been your armor. But the Buddha taught that armor weighs you down. True strength is flexibility. Emily noticed that as she practiced letting go, her reactions changed. When someone was upset, she listened without fixing. When plans shifted, she adjusted without panic. When uncertainty appeared, she breathed. This did not make her careless. It made her present. Letting go does not mean you stop acting. It means you stop forcing. This teaching changes how you see problems. Instead of asking, "How do I make this happen?" you begin to ask, "What is my part here?" And when your part is complete, you rest. The Buddha rested. He taught. He walked. He accepted that some would not listen. This acceptance allowed peace. Now pause again. Take one slow breath. Ask yourself gently, what would happen if I stopped tightening around this? Do not answer with logic. Notice the body response. Often, beneath fear is space. Emily discovered something unexpected. Letting go did not make her less effective. It made her clearer. She stopped overcorrecting, overmanaging, overworrying. Her energy returned. This is the gift of relinquishment. The Buddha taught that peace is not something you create. It is something you stop blocking. Control blocks peace because it keeps the nervous system braced. Letting go signals safety. Now let us practice one final time. If you are able, soften your posture. Breathe in gently. Exhale slowly. Imagine your hands opening. Now offer this phrase silently. I trust what unfolds beyond my control. Rest. Letting go is not a single act. It is a daily practice. You will tighten again. That is human. Each time you notice and soften, you weaken an old habit and strengthen peace. This is the 10th teaching. Before we continue, I need to pause here. The 11th teaching, boundaries without guilt. There is a familiar moment that often arrives quietly. Someone asks for something. Time. Energy. Attention. On the surface, it sounds reasonable. Even small. But inside, your body reacts. A tightening in the chest. A heaviness in the stomach. A subtle sinking feeling that says, "This will cost me." And yet, your mouth says yes. Later, alone, the resentment appears. Fatigue. A sense of being used or unseen. And then comes the guilt. Why do I feel this way? Why can't I just be more giving? This is the knot of our 11th teaching. We confuse boundaries with rejection. We believe saying no makes us unkind. We fear that protecting ourselves will push others away. So we overextend. We disappear into helpfulness. We abandon ourselves quietly. The Buddha never taught this kind of self-erasure. He taught a path where compassion and wisdom walk together. Boundaries are not walls. They are clarity. They show where you end and another begins. They protect the conditions where kindness can remain genuine. Without boundaries, generosity rots into resentment. Let me tell you about a woman named Anatta. Anatta was known as dependable. The one who always helped. The one who listened. The one who made space. Friends leaned on her constantly. Family expected her availability. At work, she absorbed extra tasks without complaint. Anatta told herself she was practicing compassion. But inside, something was breaking. Her body was always tired. Her patience wore thin. Small requests triggered outsized exhaustion. She felt ashamed of this reaction. If I were truly kind, I wouldn't feel this way. One evening, after canceling plans for the 3rd time that week to help someone else, Anatta sat alone and cried. Not from sadness. From depletion. She attended a quiet retreat soon after, hoping to reconnect with herself. The teacher spoke about boundaries. He said, when you say yes from fear, it is not generosity. When you say no from clarity, it is not cruelty. Those words landed deeply. Anatta realized many of her yeses were rooted in fear. Fear of disappointing. Fear of being abandoned. Fear of being seen as selfish. The Buddha taught that intention matters more than appearance. An action that looks kind on the outside can be harmful on the inside. This is karma at the level of the heart. Now let us pause together. If you are able, soften your posture. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench the jaw. Take a slow breath in through the nose. Exhale gently. Again. Now imagine being asked for something you do not have the capacity to give. Notice what happens in the body. Tightness. Urgency. Guilt. Now imagine responding honestly. No explanation. No apology. Just clarity. Notice what happens. Often, fear rises first. And beneath it, relief. This relief is wisdom. The Buddha taught that guilt often arises when you confuse responsibility with obligation. You are responsible for your actions. You are not obligated to sacrifice your well-being to earn love. Anatta began practicing one small boundary. When asked for help, she paused. She checked her body. If the request drained her, she responded with simple honesty. That does not work for me right now. No story. No justification. At first, her hands shook. Her heart raced. She expected rejection. Instead, most people adjusted. Some were disappointed. A few pushed back. And this taught her something important. Boundaries reveal truth. They show who relates to you with respect and who relates to you through access. The Buddha taught that wise compassion includes discernment. Not everyone who asks deserves a yes. Not every need is yours to meet. Boundaries without guilt require staying present with discomfort. Because guilt will arise. Not because you are doing something wrong. But because old conditioning is being challenged. Now let us practice. If you are able, place one hand on your belly. Breathe in through the nose for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale through the mouth or nose for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again. Let the exhale be firm and kind. Now ask yourself quietly. Where in my life am I saying yes while my body says no? Do not answer with words. Let the body respond. Now offer this phrase silently. I can be kind and still protect my limits. Rest for one breath. The Buddha himself modeled boundaries. He rested. He declined invitations. He walked away from arguments. He did not explain himself to those committed to misunderstanding. This was not arrogance. It was clarity. Anatta noticed that as she practiced boundaries, her relationships changed. Some grew quieter. Others grew deeper. When she showed up, she was present. Not resentful. Not drained. Her kindness became clean. Boundaries did not make her less loving. They made her love sustainable. This teaching changes how you see problems. Instead of asking, "How do I help everyone?" you begin to ask, "What is mine to carry?" This question brings peace. Boundaries without guilt are not built overnight. You will feel uncomfortable. You will doubt yourself. That is part of the practice. Each time you choose clarity over fear, you strengthen inner trust. As this trust grows, another capacity awakens. The ability to hold compassion for difficult people without staying close enough to be harmed. This is subtle and essential. And it is where we will go next. The 12th teaching, compassion for difficult people without closeness. There is a moment you may recognize. You think of someone and your body reacts before the mind finishes the thought. A tightening in the chest. A subtle clench in the jaw. A familiar fatigue that says, "This again." This person may be family. A co-worker. Someone you once cared for deeply. You have tried to be patient. You have tried to understand. You have tried to explain. And still, something in you feels unsafe when they are near. The psychological knot here is painful and confusing. We are taught that compassion means staying open. That love means proximity. That spiritual maturity means enduring harm without complaint. So when someone repeatedly hurts us, we feel trapped between two fears. The fear of being unkind. And the fear of being hurt again. The Buddha saw this dilemma clearly. He taught compassion without illusion. Kindness without self-betrayal. He never asked us to stay close to what causes harm. He taught compassion as a quality of the heart. Not as a requirement of access. This distinction changes everything. Compassion means wishing someone freedom from suffering. It does not mean staying in the line of fire. Let me tell you about a man named Raphael. Raphael had a brother who was unpredictable. Warm one moment. Cutting the next. Raphael carried years of loyalty. Memories of shared childhood. A sense of obligation he could not untangle. Each visit left him drained. His body stayed tense for days. His sleep broke apart. And yet, when he considered distance, guilt rose immediately. What kind of person abandons family? Raphael believed compassion required closeness. One day, exhausted and conflicted, he sat with a teacher. He described the situation carefully. Trying not to sound resentful. Trying to sound kind. The teacher listened quietly. Then he said something simple. Compassion does not require proximity. It requires clarity. Raphael felt those words land in his body. The Buddha taught that wisdom and compassion are inseparable. Without wisdom, compassion becomes martyrdom. Without compassion, wisdom becomes cold. True compassion includes yourself. The Buddha himself walked away from those who sought to harm him. He did not hate them. He did not punish them. He simply did not remain close. This is compassionate distance. Now let us pause together. If you are able, let your body settle. Feel the support beneath you. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench the jaw. Take a slow breath in. And a longer breath out. Again. Now bring to mind someone you find difficult. Not the most painful one. Just someone who consistently unsettles you. Notice what happens in the body. Tightness. Heat. Fatigue. Do not analyze. Just notice. Now silently say, "I can care without staying close." Notice what happens. Often, the body softens. Because this sentence gives permission. The Buddha taught loving kindness as an inner posture. Not as self-exposure. You can hold goodwill for someone. And still choose distance. This is not rejection. It is discernment. Raphael began practicing compassionate distance. He reduced contact. Not dramatically. Not angrily. He stopped engaging in conversations that always escalated. He limited visits. He left earlier. At first, guilt surged. His mind accused him of being selfish, unloving. But his body told a different story. His shoulders relaxed. His breath deepened. His nervous system finally rested. This rest was not cruelty. It was healing. The Buddha taught that compassion without boundaries leads to burnout and bitterness. Compassion with boundaries leads to peace. Now let us practice together more deeply. If you are able, place one hand on your chest. Feel the warmth of your own presence. Allow the breath to be natural. Now silently offer these phrases to yourself. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. Let the words land. Now bring to mind the difficult person again. You do not need to visualize them clearly. Just hold the sense of them. Now offer this phrase. May you be free from the suffering that causes harm. Notice the difference. You are not wishing closeness. You are not inviting contact. You are releasing poison from your own heart. This is compassion without attachment. The Buddha taught that hatred binds you to the one you hate. Compassion frees you. Raphael noticed that as he practiced this, his resentment softened. Not because his brother changed, but because Raphael stopped expecting him to. Expectation is often the hidden source of suffering. When you expect a difficult person to become different, you suffer repeatedly. When you see clearly who they are, you can respond wisely. This teaching changes how you see relationships. Instead of asking, "How do I make this work?" you begin to ask, "What level of contact supports peace?" This is not abandonment. It is alignment. Compassion does not require enduring disrespect. It requires releasing ill will. The Buddha taught that you can love from afar. This love is quiet, non-interfering, safe. Now pause again. Take one slow breath. Ask yourself gently, where am I confusing compassion with self-sacrifice? Stay with the question for one breath. Often, clarity appears as relief. Raphael also learned something subtle. As he stopped forcing closeness with his brother, their interactions became calmer, shorter, clearer. Distance reduced friction. Compassionate distance can sometimes heal more than constant contact. This does not mean reconciliation always happens. It means suffering decreases. The Buddha never promised perfect relationships. He promised a way to reduce suffering. This teaching is especially important for those with histories of emotional harm. You are allowed to protect your nervous system. You are allowed to choose safety. You are allowed to hold compassion without proximity. This is not spiritual failure. It is maturity. Now let us practice one final time. If you are able, soften your posture. Breathe in gently. Exhale slowly. Imagine placing a respectful distance between you and the difficult person. Not a wall. A field. Space where harm cannot reach. Now offer this phrase silently. I release the need to stay close in order to be kind. Rest. Compassion without closeness is a deep form of freedom. It allows your heart to remain open without being wounded repeatedly. It allows others to carry their own karma without you absorbing it. As this teaching settles, something even quieter becomes possible. A trust in stillness itself. A knowing that you do not need constant effort to be okay. A resting that does not depend on people, outcomes, or explanations. This is the final teaching. Trusting inner stillness. The 13th teaching, trusting inner stillness. There is a moment that comes after effort has softened. After explanation has quieted. After the need to manage has loosened its grip. Nothing special announces it. You might be sitting alone in the evening. The room dim. A cup resting on the table beside you. Or you might be walking slowly. Feeling the weight of your body move step by step. Not rushing anywhere. And for a brief moment, there is no urgency. The body exhales without being told. The mind stops scanning for what is missing. This is stillness. The psychological knot here is almost invisible. We do not trust this stillness. When things become quiet inside, the mind whispers that something is wrong. That you should be doing more. Fixing more. Preparing for what comes next. So we interrupt the calm. We reach for distraction. We think harder. We tighten again. Because somewhere along the way, we learned that stillness is unsafe. The Buddha saw this fear clearly. He taught that beneath all movement, beneath all effort, there is a natural steadiness. A peace that does not need to be earned. A clarity that does not depend on conditions. He taught that stillness is not the absence of life. It is the ground of life. In Zen, this is sometimes called resting in suchness. Trusting what is already here. Not forcing calm. Not chasing insight. Allowing the mind to settle on its own. Let me tell you about a woman named Leah. Leah had spent years working on herself. Meditation. Therapy. Reading. Practices layered on practices. She was sincere. Committed. But she was also tired. Even rest felt like something she had to do correctly. When her mind became quiet, she felt uneasy. As if she were wasting time. As if something important were being neglected. One afternoon, during a retreat, Leah approached a teacher and said, "I am afraid that if I stop trying, I will disappear." The teacher listened. Then he said gently, "What if you are already here?" The question stayed with her. Leah realized she had been using effort to feel real. To feel safe. To feel worthy. The Buddha taught that being does not require effort. Only recognition. Stillness is not emptiness. It is presence without strain. Now let us pause together. If you are able, let your body settle exactly as it is. No adjustment needed. Feel the weight of your body being supported. By the floor. By the chair. By the ground. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench the jaw. Allow the breath to be natural. No counting. No shaping, just notice that breathing is already happening. Now notice the space between breaths. The small pause after the exhale. Do nothing with it. This space is stillness. You do not create it. You notice it. Now ask yourself gently. What happens if I do not try to improve this moment? Stay with the question for one breath. Leah began practicing this simple noticing. When her mind went quiet, she resisted the urge to fill it. She stayed. At first, anxiety surfaced. Her body felt exposed. But beneath the anxiety was something else. A deep rest she had never allowed herself to feel. The Buddha taught that agitation comes from craving. Craving for pleasure. Craving for becoming. Craving to be someone else. Stillness appears when craving pauses. This stillness is trustworthy. It does not disappear when problems arise. It does not break when emotions move. It is the background that remains while everything else changes. Now let us practice more deeply. If you are able, place one hand on your belly or chest. Feel the warmth of contact. Notice the breath moving in and out on its own. Now imagine not following any thought that arises. Not pushing it away. Not engaging it. Just letting it pass like sound in the distance. Rest in what remains. Often, what remains is simple presence. The Buddha taught that awareness is already awake. It does not need to be forced. Trusting inner stillness means trusting awareness itself. Leah noticed that as she trusted this stillness, her life simplified. She no longer rushed to resolve every feeling. She allowed emotions to rise and fall. She stopped checking constantly to see if she was doing it right. She rested. This rest did not make her passive. It made her responsive. When action was needed, she acted. When nothing was required, she remained still. This is balance. The Buddha taught that wisdom knows when to move and when to be still. Problems began to look different to Leah. They no longer felt like emergencies. They were movements within a larger calm. This teaching changes how you see yourself. You stop identifying only with thoughts and reactions. You recognize the space that holds them. That space is not fragile. It has been with you since the beginning. Now pause again. Take one slow breath. Ask yourself quietly, what if there is nothing wrong with this moment? Stay with the question. Often, peace is revealed not by adding something, but by removing the belief that something is missing. The Buddha taught that nirvana is not a place. It is the extinguishing of unnecessary striving. Inner stillness is not numbness. It is aliveness without tension. You still feel joy. You still feel sadness. But they move through a wider field. Leah discovered that trusting stillness made her more compassionate. Because she no longer needed others to fill her, she listened more deeply. She spoke less urgently. Her presence became enough. This is the quiet confidence of stillness. You do not need to announce it. Others feel it. Now let us practice one final time. If you are able, soften your posture completely. Let the breath come and go. Notice the stillness that is already here. Now offer this phrase silently. I trust the quiet within me. Let the words dissolve. Rest. Trusting inner stillness does not mean you will never struggle. Thoughts will return. Fear will visit. Life will move. The practice is not to remain still forever. It is to remember stillness as the place you can return to. Again and again. This is the final teaching. You have walked through understanding. Through practice. Through letting go. Not as ideas, but as experiences felt in the body. Now there is nothing more to do. Let the body rest. Let the mind loosen its grip. Allow this stillness to carry you. Gently. Naturally. And when you forget, return again. Stillness will be waiting. Finally, there is nothing left to solve now. Nothing to improve. Nothing to understand more deeply in this moment. You have already walked through many doors. Not with effort, but with attention. You touched how suffering forms. How it multiplies. And how it softens when met with clarity. You saw how taking things personally tightens the heart. How kindness can exist without self-erasure. How the breath brings you home when the mind wanders. You learned the power of pausing. Of acting with self-respect. Of staying steady when life shifts beneath your feet. You discovered that pain does not need to become suffering. That silence can be wisdom. That not every story is true. You loosened the grip of control. You honored boundaries without guilt. You learned that compassion does not require closeness. And finally, you rested. Not because everything is resolved, but because stillness is already here. These teachings were never meant to be collected. They were meant to be felt. You will forget some of them. That is human. Forgetting is not failure. Each moment you remember to breathe. To pause. To soften instead of harden. That is the path walking itself. Before you move on, take one slow breath. Let the shoulders drop. Let the jaw loosen. Ask yourself quietly, what would change if I stopped carrying what is not mine? Do not answer. Just let the question rest. Another breath. Longer on the exhale. What becomes possible when you trust your own calm? Let the body feel the answer. Now there is nothing left to hold. Nothing left to chase. Allow the mind to settle. Allow the body to rest. Sleep does not need to be forced. Peace does not need to be earned. Let them come as they are. Like night arriving on its own. And when morning comes, carry only what is light. Everything else can be set down.